Robert the Doll is one of the most notorious haunted objects in the world, and its story has captivated generations. But the eerie tale surrounding Robert goes far beyond the mere presence of a creepy doll. It involves a family curse, supernatural occurrences, and a dark history that stretches back over a century. Prepare yourself for a chilling account of Robert the Doll, a haunting object with a legacy that continues to terrify those who cross its path. The story begins in the early 1900s in Key West, Florida. The Otto family, originally from Germany, lived in a large house on Eaton Street, where they experienced life like any other middle-class family. In 1904, Robert Eugene Otto, known as Jean Hua, was just a young boy when he received a gift from his family's servant, a woman from the Bahamas. The gift was an unusual one: a doll dressed in a sailor suit and made of stuffed cloth, with hollow eyes and a painted face. The doll was named Robert, after the boy himself. But from the moment it entered the Otto household, strange things began to happen. Jean, excited and pleased with the gift, began to play with Robert frequently. But as he did, things took a dark turn. Jean's parents started hearing strange noises coming from his room late at night. Loud bangs, the sound of objects being overturned, and whispers. When they investigated, they found the doll had mysteriously changed positions, or sometimes an entirely different expression on its face. Jean, often in tears, insisted that Robert was moving on his own, but the family dismissed it as the imaginings of a child. However, things grew more sinister. Jean began to show a disturbing attachment to the doll, speaking to it as if it were a living being, and even blaming Robert for his mischief. As time went on, Jean's behavior became more erratic. He would shout at the doll and get into trouble, claiming that Robert had told him to do things. His parents couldn't ignore it any longer. They realized their son was no longer playing with a toy, but rather something far darker. Neighbors soon began to report disturbing incidents involving Robert. Children who came to visit the Otto household would run out of the house in terror, claiming that they saw the doll's face change or that Robert had moved on his own. Some said they saw the doll's eyes following them as they moved around the room, while others claimed they heard giggling coming from the attic, where Robert was kept. One evening, during a violent thunderstorm, Jean's mother, who had had enough of the doll's behavior, decided to lock Robert away in the attic, hoping to end the madness. But when she went to check on him the next morning, she was horrified to find that Robert had somehow escaped and was sitting in the window, watching the street below. This occurrence marked a turning point for the Otto family, and the fear of Robert the doll deepened. Jean's attachment to the doll only grew stronger over the years. In fact, Jean eventually named Robert his companion, and when he grew into a young man, Robert stayed by his side. The doll accompanied Jean wherever he went, even when Jean moved away to pursue a career as an artist. As Jean became an adult, the haunting escalated. His family members would report hearing strange noises at night, whispers, and a deep sense of foreboding in the house. Jean's behavior grew increasingly eccentric. He began to isolate himself from his peers and became obsessed with the doll, refusing to part with it under any circumstances. When he married his wife, Annette, Robert the doll became a constant presence in their home. Annette was horrified by the doll from the very beginning. She would often find the doll in different places than where she had left it. Objects would go missing, and strange, inexplicable events occurred around the house. But it was not until she discovered the doll's sinister influence over her husband that things took a darker turn. Jean, under the influence of Robert, would act as though he was being controlled by the doll, taking on a personality that seemed completely different from his own. At times, he would speak for Robert as if the doll had a mind of its own. The worst of it came when Jean began to behave as though Robert had his own personality and desires. The couple fought endlessly, and soon they separated, leaving Jean to live alone with Robert. The haunting did not stop with Jean's death. After Jean passed away in the 1970s, Robert the doll was placed in a museum at the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida, where it remains today. But even there, Robert has continued to cause mischief. Museum staff and visitors who come into contact with Robert claim to feel a sudden chill, an ominous presence, or see strange movements when no one else is around. People who have taken photographs of the doll report that their cameras malfunction, or that strange, ghostly images appear on their photos. Robert's curse seems to extend beyond the confines of the museum, affecting anyone who dares to interact with the doll. Today, Robert the Doll remains one of the most famous haunted objects in the world. Many claim that the doll's spirit is still active, continuing to cause chaos wherever it goes. Visitors to the museum are warned that if they do not ask Robert's permission to take his picture, they may suffer from bad luck or a curse. Letters of apology are regularly sent to the museum by people who have mocked Robert, asking for forgiveness in an attempt to avoid the consequences of their actions. The legend of Robert the Doll has become a part of modern folklore, inspiring books, movies, and countless ghost stories. Whether or not you believe in the curse, Robert remains an unsettling reminder of the unknown forces that may lie behind the objects we keep.